Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting, January 23rd, 2024. Start off with the prayer. Today, as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for your direction, which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be good for our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city to make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Council Leahy.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Noon.
Here.
Council Robinson.
Here.
Mayor Rourke.
Here.
Council Scott.
Here.
Council Yem.
Here.
Council Chow. Here. Council Dakota.
Here.
Council Gitchia.
Here.
Council Janess. 10 present.
Moments of silence. Council Leahy.
Thank you. I'd like to offer a moment of silence for Joanne Nastos Kazanjian. Joanne Nastos Kazanjian was a loving, devoted, adored wife, mother, grandmother, daughter, sister, aunt, friend, and a true gift to the world. She passed away peacefully at her home in Stuart, Florida on January 20th at the age of 64. Joanne fought a courageous battle with a long-time illness, which was reflective of her inner strength she possessed throughout her life. The abundance of love she gave out to the world was shared by so many who knew her and loved her equally. Born February 27, 1959, Joanne grew up in Drake, Massachusetts, fourth oldest child of Catherine and Anthony Nastos. She graduated from Drake High School and then attended Northern Essex Community College. She met her husband, John Kazanjian, in the fourth grade. They would have celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary in May. Joanne and John moved to Palm Beach County, Florida, where they raised their family. She is survived by her husband, John Kazanjian, president of the Florida PBA and the Palm Beach County PBA. Her son, John Kazanjian II, his wife, Kelly, her daughter, Kristen Lassinger, and her husband, Jordan, and daughter, Caitlin. She's also the brother-in-law of City Councilor Alan Kazanjian. She will be sadly missed. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, Dr. Chambers. May she rest in peace. Two, mayor's business. 2.1, communication, remote Zoom participation. Motion to accept by Council Leahy, second by Council Mercia. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, before we go into the motions,
You want to do the clerk's minutes real quick, Councilor?
sure, there you go.
3.1 minutes of the City Council meeting, January 16th. A motion to accept by Council Mercia, second by Council Noon. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we go into the city council motions, is it possible we could take something out of order, which is 5.3 and 5.4? These are appointments and reappointments to various boards and commission. The reason I say this is there are a couple of people here that would like to speak.
Second.
Thank
Councilor,
you.
5.5 as well.
Well, yes, they're communications, yes.
Uh, 5.3, communication appointments to various city boards. We have multiple, so we'll start. Christopher Green, Commissioner on Disability. His term shall expire 1/23/27. Yep. David Ellingson, Commissioner on Disability. Marie Alana, Hunger and Homeless Commission. Nancy Gross, Nancy Goss, I apologize, Hunger and Homeless Commission, Ivana Dawa, Homeless and Homeless Commission, Matthew LaLasha, Community Preservation Committee, Ray Booton, Water Board. We also have reappointments as well. It's 5.4. Ryan Rondo, Board of Assessors, Reagan Flood, Board of Assessors, Billy Gonzalez, Council on Aging, Erica Harvey, Commission on Disability, Michael DeRoches, Commission on Disability, and Rona Goffstein, Lowell Cultural Council. Adam Backey, Community Preservation Committee, Troy DePisa, Community Preservation Committee, and then resignations. Also with those? Okay. We need a motion to adopt by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Yem. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Robinson.
Yes.
Counsel Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Yes.
Counsel Yem.
Yes.
Counsel Chow.
Yes.
Counsel Dakota.
Yeah.
Counsel Getchia.
Yes.
Counsel Janess. 10 yeas. There's an appointment here, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Mr. Green?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to the city manager and the city council for the appointment to the Disability Commission. I look forward to working with my fellow commission members and keep advancing the city to make it more accessible for everyone in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Mr. DeRoches? You sure? Don't you say hello? No? All right.
Well, he's here, so
Yeah,
let's give him a
yes.
round of applause.
Your wife would speak at the podium. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so as we know. So thank you both for your service to the city. Moving on, Section 4, City Council motions. Councilor Robinson requests the mayor create an ad hoc subcommittee to explore possible uses for vacant Superior Courthouse. Seconded by Councilor Getchia. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I brought this up last term. It's something that I think, obviously I know the city doesn't own it, but I think with the state owning a facility that's sitting in our backyard of that size, it only makes sense we pull together as many people as possible for a conversation because as the governor announced, there is money allegedly for housing coming up on the horizon. So if we can pull some community partners together and at least present somewhat of a plan that makes sense, potentially we don't know what we could turn that empty facility into. Thank you.
Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the time being, neither Lowell Superior Court nor District Court has been used for anything. One could use it for shelters if need be, especially during the winter period. I'm sure it's going to be some cost to do a minimal work to bring people out of the element and shelter them. You know, if we can look into it and having the committee, having the ad hoc committee is good. It's good, and to look into it and do it quick, it can address this issue that we need to be addressed. Thank you.
Would you volunteer for the committee, Councilor Noon? Any other comments? Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. This is a good motion, and you know, I'm going to go out on a limb here maybe that along with the Heard Street Courthouse, this is something where some of us went to the conference on Friday, and the governor is talking about housing and the need for housing. And again, this is something where the governor should be up here looking at these properties with us and turning them over for $1 to us so we can knock them down if we need to, especially Heard Street, but develop housing. So, you know, if they're going to put, if they're going to walk the walk and talk the talk, then, you know, if we should get them up here, explore our options, and create housing that's feasible for the working class people of Lowell. So we should get going on that, but this is a good motion in conjunction with maybe what we can do with Heard Street. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with my colleague's motion, but I mean, comments. The thing is without us having to retain ownership currently, because then the liability falls on our lap and the maintenance and upkeep falls on our lap, it's still a state-owned facility. So I think if we can present a plan that's well thought out with community partners and whatever we can hash out in this ad hoc subcommittee, that way it's a matter of bringing the governor or her team up to present something that's hashed out through that subcommittee. So I think, as my colleague just mentioned, if we can get this going sooner rather than later, I think gives us a good shot. Thank you.
Get you?
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I think it's a great motion, and I think that part of the motion needs to be invite the governor in her office here. That's their property. They put it into such disrepair, now it's becoming the city's problem. And if they're that serious on doing what they need to do, then they need to step up. They talk a lot, but we don't see that coming in for these projects that are their properties. It's easy to come in and grab a hotel that's already in great shape, but when they let these properties fall into such disrepair and they leave them to the local communities because of what's going on over there, it puts the residents at a clear disadvantage, and we've seen it in both properties. So I think this is really good, but I think we need to invite the governor's office to one of these meetings so that we have some real connection here, because the city can't afford it. We all know it. We need the state's help, and it's their building. So I think it's a good motion, but I think attached to it, just invite the governor's office. For
My guess is Councilor Robertson will be the chair of that committee, so we'll put him on it. Councilor Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We read in the paper about the Vinfin received the award to start a restoration center, and then I was thinking about, similar kind of location where people can stay and all of that. So just a thought along that line, where people are going to stay during the time that they need services. Thank you.
Councilor Noon.
Mr. Mayor, let me add to this that I know that from the previous council that the manager had some funding already, feasibility to look at feasibility of Hood Street District Court, whether or not what the city is going to obtain it and what use for, otherwise, or we turn it to a developer. So to get an update on that, send it to the ad hoc subcommittee. One way you have the ad hoc subcommittee will be a great idea to proceed this with a fast pace. Thank you.
Hey, Councilor. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council. Council, this is a great motion, but just as a heads up, we have been talking to DCAM and, quite frankly, Commissioner Backey, who is our own Commissioner Backey here, Adam Backey from the city of Lowell. So currently right now, Lowell District Court, we've been working with them. We have special legislation before the House and the Senate right now to enter into the sales partnership program. The sales partnership program is going to allow us to sell this particular piece of property under our specifications. Under our specifications, we'll also have an opportunity to retain some of that revenue. And that's a floating piece once we have the special legislation passed, which I have talked to the delegation about that. I think it's been approximately 2.5 weeks ago, maybe three weeks ago, to try to see if we can get that jump started and moving. So as far as Lowell District Court is, we are moving in a good direction. I've also will be talking with Mr. Backey in regards to Gorham Street as well, and that should be happening hopefully in the coming days. I think this is a great idea that we can bring people together. As Councilor Robinson knows, we've had this discussion in the past with some very interested partners throughout the city of Lowell, some of our housing partners. So there's something that hopefully can work through, and we'll continue giving you an update on that. Thank you.
Those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. 4.2, Councilor Robinson requests City Council explore obtain outside legal counsel on retainer. Seconded by Councilor Getchia. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. This is something that came up, I first brought the motion forward under the previous administration, and it was brought to our attention. We were looking at, could we make changes right when I started with the solicitor position, and because of Plan E, we were informed all these things. So they did say we had the option of retaining counsel, legal counsel specifically for the council if we desired on retainer. Just so, I mean, it's always great to get multiple opinions on especially parliamentary stuff, I think. So that was just something that I'd like my colleagues to at least consider. We have some salaries that are currently not even paid on the council. I mean, I'm not sure, but it seems like there would be a means to get an attorney on retainer without even burdening or impacting the taxpayer. Thank you.
Council Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the city have done that over the years in terms of retaining outside or specialty in certain area. I know the city solicitor office under the previous city solicitor, I'm sure this city solicitor would do the same because our city or law department is not specialized in every area. And therefore, you're going out to farm out to someone who specializes in certain areas. So it's okay to make it clear that, yes, you can go do that, but we've done that before as a city.
Council Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only concern is that if you have 5 lawyers in the room, we'll have five decisions. So my concern is that, if Councillor Robinson doesn't like, if I don't like what the attorney for that Councillor Robinson obtained, then can I get a lawyer of my own to talk about the issue that we talked about? So my concern is that it's going to be open up for more attorneys need to be hired by other councillors as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my only question that I have about this is if we have an issue with the ruling that's on the floor or like an opinion that's given by the solicitor, are we able to, I don't know if this is something the solicitor can answer, are we able to appeal that decision to the chair, or are we able to, what is our, opportunity to disagree with an opinion that's on the floor?
Solicitor.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you can all disagree with my opinions anytime. And you said decision or ruling, I'm simply providing my opinion. So, if you choose to take it, that's fine. If you choose to disagree, that's also fine. In terms of making a ruling, that would typically come from the chair. So if you weren't happy with my opinion or what I put forward, that's okay. You can go for an official ruling to the chair. I don't have the authority to make an official ruling or an order or anything like that. I can just provide my legal opinion, which you can act on or not. It's completely up to you.
And if there was an issue that we needed to have another attorney on board or whatever, we do have a retainer with someone already that we could use, or is that?
Yeah, so we do, we do work with outside law firms, KP Law, Copeland and Page, and one of the biggest municipal law firms in the Commonwealth. We could always bring something to them and ask for a second opinion, put that in front of the council. It's something we can do anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Council Gitcha.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. It's very hard to go to a city solicitor and ask for an opinion and then have a mayor overturn it. I haven't seen a mayor, and I've been around this system for many, many years, who's up on fully on parliamentary law and things like that. So I think it's very hard for a mayor to overrule someone at that point. And I think Councilor Scott and myself asked that question after the last meeting because we had concerns about motions just dying when a motion, in my opinion, ends from the parliamentary procedure point once it's passed by the board. And that's the question, does it stay in Robert's rules when it's passed by that or not? And I wouldn't expect Mayor Rourke to know that answer, as well as I wouldn't have expected Mayor Chow to know that while we've been here. And I think that the answer is clear in Robert's rules that a mayor can. Former Mayor Leahy says he understands it all, so we'll have to go with his knowledge at some point. But, it's just something, how do you question something back if the board has a question about a ruling? That's all. And I don't think this is like a smack at anybody's judgment. It's just a difference of opinion on a ruling at the time, which, as Councilor Yum clearly stated, you put 5 lawyers in a room and you get 5 different decisions. So, and I think it's good governance when you're able to have another backup system to the system that's in place and say, okay, yeah, maybe the solicitor is right and we're all wrong. So, and it could work to his advantage. So I don't think it's really fair to the mayors to say, Mayor Rook, you need to know that full book when you're standing up there. I just don't think it's on the spot. So I think this is a good motion just to have, to say, okay, how do we do that if we wanted to? And it still would take the 11 votes to be able to do it. Thank you.
If I could quickly, yeah, I would never make a decision without a total vote of the council, regardless. I think what the solicitor says is absolutely correct, is that he or she gives his opinion, and there have been times on former councils where we have gone the other way after a vote. So I guess I would just leave it at that. If there still was a question or a judgment call, it would be the majority of the council that would make the final decision. Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. City Manager, is this common practice in many municipalities in the state, getting retainers for other lawyers or of such size?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council. Yes, council, there are many towns that only have outside legal representation. And in this situation, I think the solicitor had stated, we do utilize, let's, I guess, refer to it expert legal organizations or legal law firms when it's something that is above and beyond what we would have time to do. I don't want to mention any of the cases, but some of those recent cases have been adjudicated, and they've been adjudicated outside of, with an outside law firm. But, however, the outside law firm is always working hand in glove with our city solicitor. So, yes, in general, and it appears to me that most cities have their own solicitor's office. We did, when we were in a state of flux when I first got here, we did look at something like that as well. I mean, should we do what the other towns were doing? And what we ended up finding out is that we just have way too much going on a daily basis when it comes to contracts, when it comes to any type of negotiation, when it comes to any type of HR issues or employment, that we do need, our own counsel, but still have the ability to obtain outside counsel. So
I do agree with the intent of the motion, but I do understand where Councilor Yum is coming from, is that, what are we talking expert here? Who do we pick from? We have 5 lawyers that are experts in this field, and who gets to pick that lawyer? So I'm a little gray on that, but I'd like it to go maybe to a subcommittee or some type. Councilor Rourke? Mayor Rourke?
Councilor Rouse?
Oh, the maker of the motion.
Thank you. I'm open for discussion in any way my colleagues would like. I just looked at it this way. And again, my colleague was right. In no way, shape, or form is this against our current solicitor. I think he does a great job. Nothing against the administration. It's just, if you look at the planning form of government, the solicitor is pretty much a direct report to the administration. And so if there's ever a legal question that, say, the council and the administration didn't agree on interpretation of something, it's tough to get a clear ruling from a situation where the person that would be given their opinion is a direct report to the administration. So it's just an additional layer that the council would have, an additional tool. And the way it could be done is all 11 have the conversation. I think parliamentary process pops up a lot. So that might be someone we look for, is someone that specializes in that process. And now, if we come to a majority agreement on this attorney has a solid track record with parliamentary decisions, a retainer. Now that retainer, whatever that looks like, throw a number out there. Say it's a $200 an hour fee for this attorney. We throw a $5,000 or $10,000 retainer to hold this person. Again, we could structure it to where if we had a question, the majority of the council would have to vote to send the chair, which would be the mayor, to contact that attorney just to get clarification on the question that we're having. So that way it's not each one of us are reaching out to this attorney. It's just, it would take a majority vote, and we would just basically have a neutral third party that could give us a different opinion. So it's nothing personal. It's not about saying someone is doing a good job or a bad job. And again, I think it's one of these instances where Robert's rules governs these public meetings. And I don't think anybody in the administration is really required to be an expert on parliamentary process and procedure, and it just makes sense to have somebody that's able to ask more of the complicated questions when it comes to parliamentary procedure. Thank you.
Councilor Young and Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may kind of take this motion a step further, I think we as a body had been wrestling about censorship of member, one of our own. So in the situation like this, we censor one of our own for whatever reason, and then the members who being censored doesn't like the decision. Does that mean that members of our body then request the outside counsel to come in and kind of making the decision? So that's just my comment, taking a step further from what we discussed here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to caution everyone. The motion here asks for explore. So it's not making a decision to do so. While we explore, I urge that we entrust in our city solicitor because we hire him. The city manager hire him, and the city manager responsible for him, and the city manager trusts him. And so therefore we trust him. As far as parliamentary rule or Robin rule and all that, if he can go to law school and pass the bar and being our city solicitor, he's going to be able to handle that. We do not need to go to, when time comes, we do not need to go to outside. Outside, usually, used for specialty in areas that the cities and the city law department went to, big firm, to protect themselves because the city law department, city solicitors and whatnot are not, we're small, we're not big law firm. We went out. I know that the previous city solicitor have done that many times before. So I'm sure this city solicitor would do the same. While we explore the possibility of looking at the outside legal counsel on retainer, we need to say to the city solicitor sitting in front of us, we trust you. If you were lingering on issues of parliamentaries or Robert rule, then, get with it quick. Because you are our chief attorney for the city. Taxpayer money, I don't want to waste taxpayer money, even if it's a couple $100, but this motion asks for exploration. So let's get to it. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Getchia, Councilor Chow, and Councilor Leahy.
Mayor Rourke, just because you're an attorney doesn't mean it's that quick on your feet to make rulings on all disciplines within city government while you're sitting there. And it's tough on the city solicitor at points because if you've ever seen just the Roberts Rules book and understanding that whole thing is just complete insanity for anybody. And you're not looking at things like that. And then you're looking at, just over the past council, we have questions on filling a vacancy on the city council, which is not fair to the city solicitor to rule. Of course, he can rule, and then it's going to be questioned forever. If you can have an outside firm do this, it's clean hands on it. It makes everybody feel more comfortable. And I'm not saying that the city solicitor wouldn't rule just to rule the right way, but it's just clean. And then you look at procedures on censoring some counselor. That should never be put on a city solicitor here. He works for the manager works for us, and it has this snowball effect to this whole thing, which if you could separate this government body from that and have an outside attorney look at that, it would, seems to me, make it a little bit cleaner. And I just think some of the things make sense, the parliamentary stuff right on the spot. The city solicitor has no idea what I'm going to ask him tonight, and he has to come up quickly with an answer or say, I gotta, let me research that. But in an instant of a live meeting, you can look like a fool when someone asks you a question based out of a book that, you don't know what page 612 reads, and it's not a reflection on the city solicitor, but it's a reflection on how government is run at this point. So I don't think it's a bad idea to have a retainer for certain things that we think that keep our government functioning without having a gray cloud over it, whether it's a right decision and wrong decision. Someone's going to question it when you have the opportunity to go to the outside and just say, look, can you look at this? Thank you.
Councilor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to just look at, maybe say this a little bit differently, maybe similar to what my colleagues stated before. I can see the intent of this, the good intent of this, and I will support this motion because it's asking just to explore, to look for ways how it would look, how it could be done. But in reality, I think we have, when we have the city solicitor represent the city, I just want to clarify what he stated earlier. When he gives an opinion, it's not his personal opinion, it's a legal opinion that both to protect the city, the elected officers, and the administration. And I believe that he has the best interest, and I never once, whether this present solicitor or the previous ones, I never once had any doubt that the intent was to look out for what is the best interest of the city. And if the solicitor were to be uncomfortable with the opinion, or if the elected official were to disagree with it, I believe that the solicitor afterward would probably go back and review the laws and maybe seek other attorneys' opinions himself. I believe that he will do a good job. He or she, no matter who the solicitor is in a position, they're always going to look out for the best interest. We always tend to think of that the grass is green on the other side, and I don't want to rehash from what happened on the other side, the elected official, namely the school committee, when we think that we could get different opinion, different type of work by seeking outside counsel, when we could very well just use the counsel that we have that provide all the work and all the answers that we need to do. So I strongly believe and have faith and confidence in our solicitor that they do a good job. I don't think the current solicitor will have any problem if he doesn't have the answer right away. He would look for the answer and provide us at the next meeting, or by phone calls, or by emails. But I'm going to support this motion just to see what it looks like on the report, but in no way or shape or form that I would endorse, different type of counsel, different type of solicitor sitting in the office during the meeting when we have the meeting every Tuesday. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. I can appreciate the motion, but I think when I was on school committee, we had the Massachusetts School Committee Association, and now we have access to the MMA. So if we have legal questions or questions about just about anything, you can contact them as a member and ask our questions. So I can appreciate the motion, but I'm not going to support it this time. And I think the resources are already at our fingertips. Thank you.
That being said, I'll just quickly add, as Councilor Gitchen and I spoke earlier, we are the ultimate decision maker of what happens. Doesn't matter what a lawyer we have sitting over there, if we have 3 of them or 1 of them, we make the ultimate decision on what we're going to do going forward. Such as, last week, if the motion was made to move on motions back again, that probably would have been made. So with that being said, I appreciate, respect the motion on the face of it, but the ultimate decision does lie with us, no matter whose opinion of the person that's sitting there. So with that being said, Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Council Leahy.
No.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Council Rourke, Mayor Rourke.
No.
Council Scott.
No.
Council Yem.
No.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Gitchia.
Yes.
Council Janess. 6 yes.
4.3, Councilor Robinson requests city manager have city solicitor provide a report on elected officials' requirements to accept employment, as well as are there any cooling off periods required? Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I bring this up because we just went through a similar situation, opposite direction. We had an employee coming onto the council as an elected with my colleague, and there was questions up in the air until we finally worked through the details. So I just figured the opposite direction. It makes sense to take a look at this and get the information in case we're ever faced with that in the near future or down the line. It just makes sense to be prepared in case that ever presented itself. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.4, Councilor Robinson requests city manager have the proper department provide an update on hole in sidewalk and plate in front of the Purple Carrot on Merrimack Street. Seconded by Councilor New. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I noticed this, and a few people brought it to my attention. And again, we're in winter operations, so I don't know, is there a vault underneath there or whatever? So I mean, any information? I'm sure DPD and DPW are already well aware of this, but it was something that kind of stood out to me. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.5, Councilor Robinson requests city manager work with the proper department to explore if utilizing snowblower attachments and loading trucks in dense neighborhoods would be beneficial for winter operations. Seconded by Councilor Gitche. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Not necessarily just dense neighborhoods. Again, even downtown and business districts where certain areas there's really next to nowhere to put this snow. So like perfect example would be we lucked out with the 17 inches melting in a day or two. That's not the norm, but again, perfect example would be the Bridge Street business corridor. A lot of those storefronts are maybe 6 feet from the road, a main road. And so if we would have had 17 inches of snow stacked on those banks, it's tough. Where do you put it? So I just wanted to see if this is yet another tool that could be utilized by those that are doing the snow removal. Thank you.
Councilor Gitche.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I think the key to the whole motion is where it says beneficial for winter operations, because like if we went out and we just wasted all of those funds on the last 18-inch storm and it melted 2 days later, then we just threw away all that money. So I think it's something that we really have to dial in and understand the future forecasts and everything like that, because there are going to be people who will not move their cars. They have 6-car driveways. We can't get everybody in the city. And then they throw everything back in the street, and then you have to go knock on their door to get them to move their car so you can remove the snow down the end of the street and put it in a loader, which now you're costing the taxpayer more and more, and they don't like taxes being raised. So I think that that's where you got to be really beneficial. Downtown makes sense once it gets, you can't open your doors and stuff. So I think this is a good motion on the face of it that, you got to really be careful because you could be spending a ton of time and money.
So just for the record, Councilor, if we have an 18-inch storm, it's going to be 60 degrees the next day, you still want us to plow, right?
It depends if
Still
you
want us to plow that night?
It depends if you call the council meeting.
That's all.
It depends if you call the council meeting. Last time you made us come here.
We did have a city manager say, wait for the sun to come out at one point in time, yeah. So, any other comments? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.6, Councilor Gitche, Councilor Robinson, request city manager reach out to the Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball League to plan an opening day parade in downtown. No second needed. Councilor Gitche.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I'm still laughing about the next day. This was a great planned event last year, and I think if we get on it earlier, we could make it even better. So I think that if we just reach out earlier, there may be a bigger event here, and we have plenty of staff that can help us with it. That was really the premise, to start this early and try to get it going. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo my colleague, and I think the administration, everyone saw last year, this was something that there was a large appetite for. The numbers, I can't remember many times when City Hall Plaza was that packed with kids and families. And, some of the things that we pointed out last year, maybe the addition of food trucks or maybe a couple small tweaks or add-ons, so you say. So anything we could do to prepare for that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Last year was a great event, even in lousy weather, so it's a good idea last year and very good this year, too. 4.7, Councilor Gitche requests city manager update the council on the free cash certification. Seconded by Councilor Dakota. Councilor Gitche.
Motion speaks for itself.
All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. 4.8, Councilor Gitche requests city manager update the council on the status of the parking enterprise fund. Seconded by Councilor Scott. Councilor Gitche.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I keep trying to say Mayor Chow every time I go to Mayor Rourke.
Kills him, too.
Got his own phone. The parking enterprise, when we first got the whole outlook of it, we were going to be 2 million in the red, and then when we saw a projection at one of the finance committee meetings, it started to project like we weren't going to have that number. So it looked like we were actually hitting into it, and we were going to make it less of a deficit. And I'm just wondering what those numbers are, and did we start actually charging the proper number for those green placards in front of people's houses? Did we change that? Is it still the $10 for the signage? So those are just a couple things. I just really would like to see where the projection is right now, and are we going to have to make some decisions real soon on that whole account and the parking revenue stuff? So that was really the driver to this, is just get on it early.
Thank you. Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also just echo Councilor Giccia's sentiments. I think this is a great motion. I think we need to move forward, stop the bleeding in that account from happening. The discussion happened quite a long time ago. I think it's, I'm hopeful that we'll see that in the coming month or so, at least. The recommendation for the fee changes. I know they haven't changed yet, because I know some people that have gone to get placards and they're still the same right now. So thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.9. Councilor Giccia requests city manager provide the city council with an update on the maintenance plan for the Olette Bridge, Acre Street deck surface. Seconded by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Giccia.
Last time we put this out there, you see the deck is wearing out, and they basically filled in those metal grates with the concrete, and now we're throwing more salt and everything on it, and you can see it's deteriorating much faster than the last motion that we put in. And I wasn't sure last time whether it was a state, we were going to talk to the state and the city, they were going to try to get together, and the manager was going to get back to us, and I'm just trying to figure out, okay, can we get this deck resurfaced and stop the bleeding before that thing just has to be shut down and we go the other way? So I think there's some maybe maintenance that can be done to it that could expand the life expectancy of it. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
are we going on to 4.10?
Was the plan.
And it looks like the rest of them up until 4.11 are all refiled motions. Could we bundle not just those, but all the motions on the agenda that are refiled and refer them?
4.10 and 4.15?
Right, and refer them to the city manager?
Absolutely.
Unless you want to be here till 3, and we could take our time and go over all 75 of whatever might be there.
Second that.
I like to bundle them, thank you.
Motion to bundle by Councilor Mercer, seconded by Councilor Young. Councilor Giccia.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I just have two that I'd like to pull out of there, if that's possible, beforehand. One of them is the request the city manager update the city council on the Wi-Fi at the senior center. If I could just ask that would be referred to the senior citizen subcommittee, so that we can look at all of the facilities issues over at the senior center and try to bundle them all in, so that if that's okay with Councilor Mercier, who chairs that subcommittee, that's what I would like to do.
Motion by Councilor Giccia, send it to the senior citizen subcommittee, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. Councilor Giccia.
And then the only other one would be request the city manager provide the city council with an update on the conditions of the Pawtucket Memorial School. That one, I would love to see what the conditions are. When we started looking at the roofing issues and we were only going to do over the gym, I'd like to just see a real update on what is our capital plans and where are we going with that place, and see how can we dial it in and try to get it to a better place. Just recently, we looked at the stock closer. They had put in a boys' bathroom request, and somehow the boys' and girls' bathroom stalls got taken out, and they have no doors on them, and we just have to do better than what we're doing for the students down there. And so I think that this piece, if we could just pull it out and make sure that we get that update as soon as possible, Mr. Manager. I really would like to see that, and then I'll be coming in with one for the stock closer just to see, why didn't we go with the contractor to put in the stuff, and why did we do it with the city and shrink down those stalls the way we did?
Councilor, want you to add it now to the manager?
If that's all right with the chair, I'd like to add that if you can just include the stock closer bathrooms, and I think the Butler and Shaughnessy were included in that price quote that was given at $160-something thousand. And why didn't we move forward with that group and just have that done by them? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. understanding that we're not going to have a new roof at the Pawtucket Memorial until 2025, I'm wondering what planning we're going to have concerning the mold situation over there for the next year and a half. Are we looking at weekly inspections, especially during the summer months that school's not in session? I just want to know where the administration is going to go with this, because I am receiving quite a few phone calls from the staff members and parents, quite concerned, because we're looking at a roof not for another year and a half. So if the council could be updated quite frequently, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Council Scott? Nothing? Okay. Council Getchia?
He just brought up another question, through you to the manager. Since this has been, have we had a roofer on that building recently? Since, you know, if you don't know, I mean, I can wait for the report, but when it was raining in there, I'm just wondering, have we had a roofer in there, and have they found areas that they could patch so that it would stop at that point?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Council, I'd probably prefer to wait to get the report, and we will flip this over immediately. There's been a lot of activity, obviously, over the Pawtucketville School as well as Stockloser and everything else. But I was talking to Commissioner St. Cyr about this, so we're already on it to try to keep everyone up to date as to what is happening. There's a lot of conversation that's been happening over, quote unquote, the roof where the mold is happening. It's a metal roof. There's a whole thing going on here, but I'd rather have it all written up, have a discussion with the commissioner and bring it back to the council. And we'll make sure that that's done in the next couple of weeks.
Council Leahy?
Thank you. I was going to suggest also, Mr. Manager, that I would like to have a facilities subcommittee fairly soon, because I think the new administration, the new DPW commissioner and his team, they're doing a lot of good work. They're coming up with a lot of different ideas, different thoughts, and they're making a lot more, they're putting a lot more thought into the repairs so that they last longer. And we have to give them a chance to do their job. There's a lot of, sometimes this stuff just gets out of hand on social media. And I'd like them to explain the work that they're doing, how much better it's going to be, the improvements that we're coming up with, and the different way of thinking that department's doing now. So with your report and everything, maybe in the not too near in the distant future, we'll have a subcommittee on that and have Commissioner here to explain the new way of thinking. So thank you.
Those in favor say, Council Getchia?
You know, it amazes me how people point to social media when things aren't getting done. And they try to point that things are getting done, and they'll tell you things are getting done, and then a picture speaks 1,000 words. Going forward, you're going to see a lot more pictures attached to motions, because it seems like there's this whole thing of this isn't happening unless you can see it type of movement in the city. For far too long, politicians have been in these seats, and things have not been done. That's why in 2024, we're still doing things that we should have done years ago, and the managers here taking the hit for it. These are capital planning, these are things that should be done, and these are people's children. So when we say that people are doing their job, they very well may be. But when we're pushing off bids and saying that they're too much money, and then we're leaving bathroom stalls without doors on them for young middle school children to use, we have problems. When it's raining in hallways, we have problems. These are our children. So when people say social media is actually helping to get these things done, because they haven't been done in the past, and we re-elect the same people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager? I'm sorry, Council Mercia.
I know he's not talking about me.
Mr. Manager, you all set? Want me for a report, or you want to talk now? Okay, great. All right, so we have 410 and 415. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Both those motions passes. And you're welcome, Mr. Manager, for that. 4.11, Council Mercia requests city manager open up communication with the owners of the railroad bridge to restore the Spaghettiville Bridge sign on Gorham Street, a landmark in the city of Lowell. Seconded by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Mercia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe the motion speaks for itself, but I just want to say that we do have landmarks in the city that were significant to past history. I think it's a part of history. We probably don't have Prince Spaghetti here anymore, but we did at one time, and many people worked there. It was a staple in the city, and I remember watching TV and seeing Anthony running home on a Wednesday because it was Prince Spaghetti Day. So that is a landmark here in the city, and I know that Guilford Transportation or whomever owns that, and I think they should spruce it up a bit so that we can revive history and give people a nice feeling about days gone by. Thank you.
Awesome. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.12, Councilor Scott requests Auditor Clerk Oversight Personnel Subcommittee meet to discuss shared goals, planning an updated evaluation tool for employees under the council purview. Seconded by Councilor Yam. Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will say, when I came onto the city council and I first got an evaluation form, I was pretty surprised in comparison to the school side of things, where it's very, it's shared goals planning. There's, the presentation by the superintendent that comes and tells us all the quantifiable data that he's done, whether, and we certainly have shared goals with the city manager. There's been performance metrics. They're shown in the budget. They're shown, in all different places. But it's been a verbal process. It's not really been a written process that everyone can kind of put down, we expect, this many DEI trainings to happen. We expect, just real data points that we can look at and follow. So it's something I'd like the subcommittee to work to develop a timeline for goal sharing and for sharing accomplishments in just a better format. And then we bring back the recommendation to the full committee for approval. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.13, Councilor Scott requests city manager include a link to unanswered motions on the weekly agenda and a quarterly report with updates on all unanswered motions. Seconded by Councilor Marcia. Councilor Scott.
Thank you. Again, this is something that does happen on the school side. The link is on the agenda, and they also have a quarterly report, status report of all the motions, just to get an update, so that we're not surprised when motions haven't been answered for a while. I know it is our, responsibility to keep track of them as well, but it certainly helps, and it's, fosters accountability, I think, for everybody involved, to take action on the motions and update the public, just to be more transparent as well.
Any comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 4.14, Councilor Scott requests city manager provide a report that includes all costs to date associated with the cyber attack, any deficiencies we still have from it, and what needs to still happen to modernize cyber security and ensure that the city is protected from potential cyber attacks and/or data breaches from ever happening again. Seconded by Councilor Gitche. Councilor Scott.
Thank you. Again, transparency. I just, I really want to know how much we spent so far on this issue. We keep having new things come up, LifeLock, and then it was the modems for the police vehicles, and and it just seems like the senior center Wi-Fi, that it's just kind of like this legacy that just kind of keeps lingering on and on. Kind of like to know whether or not we're being penny wise and pound foolish. Like, do we need more cybersecurity staff on staff right now? I mean, are we not spending money that is going to cost us millions of dollars in the future? So I'd just really like to see an update where we are right now on this. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 4.15 is already taken care of. 4.16, Councilor Scott. Councilor Chow requests city manager have a representative from the Commonwealth Care Alliance appear at a meeting as soon as possible to update the city council on the acclimation plans for the asylum seekers. No second needed. Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think it's important for us to hear from the nonprofit that's helping with the activation at the Inn and Conference Center. I think it's really important for us to know that they're getting all the services that they need to be properly integrated into the city. So that's the update that I'm really looking for. Are they getting on-site ELL classes? Is workforce development on-site offering training? Are there transportation services on-site available for them? And my other question is whether or not there's on-site work happening around working papers, and what's the status of the people there? How many people are waiting for working papers? So, these are the steps that need to happen, obviously, so that they can take a step forward in the city. And we want to be welcoming, but I just want to make sure that they have everything that they need as well. So, thank you.
Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Scott, for bringing up this idea to discuss it with me. We have this potentially thousands of individuals in our city, and as Councilor Scott mentioned, we are a welcoming city, but they just beginning to arrive and staying here, and us as elected officials, as well as the rest of the city, we don't know what's going on in that building. We want to make sure that we are welcoming and to see, to get the report, what they're doing at the building. How can we be of assistance? How can we help? How can we help them advocate basically? And, it would be great to have a representative to come make a presentation here, but I would also echo the sentiments of my colleague in the past prior meetings or in the email, or my colleague next to me now. I think it'd be great too for us to go visit the ICC just to see what the living situation with the environment is like as well. Again, we're not. There's some issues, some challenges that present the city. We are not shunned from this matter in any way, shape, or form. We want to put our best foot forward in welcoming them and do the right way. And there has to be communication and has to be interaction with us and with the residents and with the people who are in charge. If the city manager could help facilitate this type of presentation and tour as soon as possible, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may also request it, and maybe the maker of the motion would agree to also allow and schedule a time where the councillor have an opportunity to tour the facility and allow us personally, myself, to welcome those who came to the city and stay at the ICC. So that would be my request, if that's okay with the maker of the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the administrations and particularly Sean Machado for continuing to update the council as to the numbers of arrival to the ICC. Yes, surely we would like to know, and I'm sure our viewer at home would like to know what some of the things that the city have done in terms of a system, what organizations in terms of the local community health, the school department, and so on and so forth. To have presentation on this here before the council is a great thing. I also recall, if the administration is, if I was correct, the administration reminded us that the people in charge of ICC said that in time we will get that visit, that visit to the ICC. Maybe some security issue, maybe whatever issue that they have, but for the time being, I think the report asks for, the motion asks for an update on the council or to the council as to what some of the service beside the numbers that arrive of arrival. Also, I want to further add that what some of the resources that the city have getting thus far from the state and or the federal. So that would be great. Thank you.
Councilor Cotto?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Assistant City Manager, Machado. At this point today, Mr. Machado, what is the population at the ICC?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know after this week, we have folks coming in today, which I didn't get a number on, and then Thursday, both from Waltham and Dartmouth. After that, I know that there'll be like roughly around 100 rooms available.
Okay.
But I can get you an exact number. But I do know that after this week, there'll be...
I think as of the weekend, we had 100 because through the school department registrations and just family. So I was figuring you had some today and we're getting some. So we could be around 160, 170 by weekend. Yeah. Right?
And Councilor Yem had reached out, asked for a meeting on Martin Luther King Day. I reached out to the agency that's hosting them. They want to do a tour with the council, and they'll do it on a Saturday, but they want to do it when they're full and they're done doing the whole intake process. So that's in the works.
I understand. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilor Marcia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a group coming into the Inn and Conference Center on February 4th. Well, two gentlemen from Haiti came into the sheriff's office last week. I guess they were scouting around the city thinking they're going to come here, which they are, but they were ahead of the game, and I thought that was quite impressive. But they went to the sheriff's office. How they ever found us, I'll never know, but they did. And we have a job developer there, and we were working together, the job developer and myself. The two of the Haitian people, gentlemen, could not speak English. They spoke Spanish. But we have people that work for the sheriff that speak Spanish, and they came in and translated for us. It seems that they want to get a job, and what they did was were into refrigeration in Haiti, so they wanted a job. And there's a place in Haverhill that will possibly hire them. We're almost sure of it. But I find now that the issue is transportation, getting them there, because they don't have a car, they don't have a license. So, I'm just concerned. I did call Kevin Coughlin. He's working on it, but we need some communication within this program to see if there's transportation available. That's very, very important. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 4.17, Councilor Dakota, request city manager provide an update on status of phase construction on 4 vacant lots in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District pursuant to an agreement with the Poli Companies LLC. Second by Councilor Getchia. Councilor Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over 3 years ago, in December of 2020, the city entered into an agreement with Poli Companies LLC for a phase development of lots 1 and 5 in the Hamilton Canal District. The schedule on the agreement required that the construction begin on Parcel 1 no later than June 30th, 2021. Parcel 1 is where Mr. Lopoli or his company is currently constructing a parking garage directly across from the new Justice Center. The schedule requires construction to begin on 1 or more of the other 4 parcels by June 30th, 2023. That deadline has come and gone with no construction. The contract also requires that the core and the shell of the buildings on all the developers' parcels shall be substantially completed by December 31st, 2027. I do have some concerns. I am concerned about the failure of the Poli companies to start construction on the other 4 parcels by the agreed-upon deadline. I am concerned that we are approaching the halfway point of this contract, and the only parking garage on 1 parcel is being constructed, with the 4 other lots remaining vacant and undeveloped. I'm concerned that when Mr. Poli's garage opens, that he will not build the other proposed units, and he will have a cash cow across the street from the courthouse, and the city's new $20 million garage, just an 8-minute walk away, will become a financial albatross. It is my understanding the city may currently be discussing terms with Mr. Lopoli in view of higher interest rates. I'm requesting an update on progress and information on when the construction will commence. Also, given the lack of progress on this contract, should the city be revisiting other options? There are plenty of developers out there, and we have waited 20 years to develop this district. Thank you very much. I'd like to hear from any comments or questions from my colleagues. And I do understand that this did come up in maybe last year before I came on the committee and some discussion, so I apologize if I've gone over.
Councilor Noon and Councilor Getchia. Councilor Noon.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Dakota. Don't apologize. All of us here share that frustration. Yes, about 6, maybe 7 weeks ago, the Economic and Downtown Development Subcommittee had met. We got a report from Assistant City Manager's Director of DPD, Ms. Bai Rose, around these issues. Yes, the garage, I think, should be open either be the end of this month or in February, right, of this year. You're right. Parcel 2, 3, 4, and 5, way behind. Way behind. However, we understood that at the subcommittee meeting that Salapoli requests plan change. Plan change. We don't know what that plan change looked like, but ongoing communication has been with the DPD directors and or her staff. So any change need to be approved by this council. Yes. At that meeting, The whole subcommittee expressed frustration, and this whole council, then and now, I don't know anybody who's not. The whole deal with the garages has to do with the remaining parcel, the high rise. So remember that any change that deviated from a mission of the district, a mission, the council mission for what's going to happen in that district, we're going to vote on it. We're going to vote on it. So I know that deputy directors at that meeting, Councilor Dakota, reported that she will sometime in February of this year give a presentation of what some of those communication has been and what some of the change, was requested. I'm telling you, I'm also concerned as well. I know that the administration worked very hard on this, the Hampton Canal Innovative District, particularly the remaining parcel, right? Parcel 13, 15, 16, 17. But at the same time, we do really concerned too of those partial 2, 3, 4, and 5. What's going to happen with that high rise? The cash cow, you're correct. Who would want to go to the Hampton Canal garage when you could just go to a short distance, pay extra $1, especially if you're a lawyer, you bill it to your client, right? So I am anxiously waiting for that presentation and report. Good motion, Councilor Dakota.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? All's approved, say aye. Motion passes. Motion 4.18, Councilor Dakota, request city manager, request LRTA give an update on the current volume of bus-only usage and expected usage. Seconded by Councilor Getchia. Councilor Dakota.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I'm not sure if my colleagues have seen it, but I've yet to see an LRTA bus use that bus lane yet. I don't know. Mayor Rourke's seen one. That's good. The only vehicles I see are ambulances and fire engines. That's it. But I don't know what's going on. Is it the lights are taking too long? But they're not using them. So I'm just wondering for an update there.
Mr. Manager?
Through the city manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. May, through the council. Council, you are correct. We will ask for a written update from the LRTA as well, but I know that the traffic engineer is here as well. There's a lot of frustration. I'm not saying it's perfect, but the vehicular traffic is getting better. The timing of the lights is getting better. And the bus lane is still a problem. It's still an issue. Trying to, the LRTA drivers are feeling as though that it's quicker to go where the other vehicles are located. However, I will tell you that a lot of our emergency vehicles, truthfully, are using it. It is still my further understanding, but I will get a report back that there is still an issue with the timing. So I with you, I'm a little frustrated by that as well. But the lane is being used by our emergency vehicles, which of course is
a huge plus.
Completely acceptable as well.
Understood. Thank you.
Council, you're more than welcome to come to my office and stare out the window. I do it very well. So if you want to come by one day, yeah, you can take a look. So
You have windows? You got windows?
He's got a window.
Wow.
it does open too, yeah. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.19, Councilor Newell requests city manager have LPD and LFD host a community workshop regarding job opportunities in each department, as well as outlining the application process for those jobs. Seconded by Councilor Mercer. Councilor Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself.
Great. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 4.20, Councilor Newell requests city manager have Lowell Police Department provide an update on the computer-aided dispatch in cruises. Seconded by Councilor Scott. Councilor Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I know Councilor Kachia's put these motions, at least some sort of similar, maybe exactly, but just that I phrase it somewhat a little different, but the intent the same. The computer aid dispatch called CAT in cruisers is crucial. It's not, I thought it was just about writing report, convenient writing report. While you're at your precinct, you don't have to come to the the station. I think this CAT system allow follow officers to know where other officers are at all time in case of unforeseeable critical incident involve officers, right? This CAT system also reduce chance of potential lawsuit should there be an incident or an accident or delay in respond to a high priority call. This CAT system also reduce need for, maybe I just skip that overtime thing, but anyway, the other things that this CAT system is allowed for officers to read report of history or report for history on an individual party or incident prior to going into that call. So allowing for officers to have better knowledge of the party involved, reduce risk, and also allow officer preparedness. The other part that this CAT system will do is reduce mix-up in incorrect information such as address, where call are dispatched. Officer can use or can see the narrative for the call at all time, such as the suspect description, eliminating the need to call over the radio to repeat the information. This CAT system was in place before this computer thing, right? Hijack whatever that they did with the MIS. They had it before, and they still have it for supervisors, for specialty unit, gang unit, narcotic unit and all that. Why do we not give this to this patrol men and women? So I want to report on it. I want to report when it comes. Please send it to the Public Safety Subcommittee because this really is a public safety issue or concern. Thank you.
Councilor Getchia?
Thank you, Councilor Noon, for bringing this back up. Mayor Rourke, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, the cyber attack was what? Was it March of 2022? Is that when it was?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. April 25th, 2023.
Okay. When we went over this before, I thought it was 22. It was 22.
It's 22. I apologize. We're calendar 22. We're doing fiscal years. Apologize. My bad.
I have the same problem with fiscal years, calendar years, and crazy years, but all right.
Councilor, April of 2023. Last April. Let's go from that. I apologize. We're up here doing fiscal year stuff as well. My apologies.
9 months ago.
9 months ago. That's correct.
Okay, so
Councilor, go ahead. Sorry.
the question, I guess, comes back to, how long is long? And, when what Councilor Noon had said, you're starting to look at liability and police officers and stuff like that. And now we, doing things efficiently in the city and the crossovers and stuff like that. So the sooner the better the answer can come back for these motions. I think because of the weight of the issue, it would be imperative for this body to understand and maybe send it to the Public Safety Subcommittee that would help out with this. So if Councilor Noon would like that, we can make a motion the response could go to the Public Safety Subcommittee if he's acceptable to that.
I have no problem with that.
Great.
So I make a motion that when the response comes, it goes to
Getchia, second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 4.21. Councilor Noon requests city manager provide update regarding staffing at the police precincts in the city, particularly during nights and weekends. Seconded by Councilor Yem. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 4.22. Councilor Noon requests Public Safety Subcommittee have a discussion with Lowell Police Department regarding current crime stats in the city. Seconded by Councilor Getchia. Councilor Noon.
Mr. Mayor, same as previous one. Speak
A
for
very
itself.
busy public safety subcommittee, Council. Going up. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 4.23, Council Leahy requests city manager work with DPW to come up with a contract for patch repairs on the streets throughout the city. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. When we do the contracts this year, I just want to make sure I asked. There's a lot of sections that need to be cut out. So whole road doesn't need to be done. I just want to make sure that when we're doing our paving contract lists, that we have a section for, or a contract for patchwork. You know, there'll be, like, on Hovey Street by Florida Street, for example, we've been patching holes there for the last 2 years. It needs a 20 by 20 cutout, and then we'll be good. So just things like that. Thank you.
Councilor Getchia.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. We just, I think less than a year, we bought another hot box, and we bought 2 new hot boxes, right, within less than a year. So these things should be able to be done in-house. And then in addition to that, as you highly outlined in your address to the city, is between the crack seal and the fog sealing and everything, you're going to see these numbers go the other way, hopefully within, we just have to be patient on it. It's going to take a few years, yeah. And I agree with that, but I do think that we can, you know, when Mike O'Malley was here, we didn't have a lot of things we have now. So I think that as we start catching up, and if we just saw cut some of them, as Council Leahy's outlining, I don't necessarily think that, I don't know any community around here, and I would ask that through the chair when you do this report, to highlight how many communities around here actually hire someone to fill their potholes and do their cutouts, to be based off of that. We have, I would agree again with Council Leahy, we've let the roads fall into such disrepair that, you know, even by doing big cutouts like he's saying, the whole road needs to be done at that point. Half the road is incapable of being passed upon. So I think that as we move forward with this whole progress that you're doing on your road maintenance plans, you're going to see in the next 5 years a reduction in a lot of those line items. And it's happened throughout every community that takes on these projects. And you saw in your capital planning the money that we put into these roads. So I think you're going to see a major difference. I would hold off on contractors unless it's something that, you know, Council Leahy outlines that's big and needs to be done, but I would think we already do that.
Yeah. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Council, I appreciate that. As everyone knows, we put up the sidewalk assessment. We will also be putting up the roadway assessment. Now, I want to caution everybody, the roadway assessment is from, I believe it's 2020. But we're going to put that up. We are going to put it back out. Councilor, we also introduced localized paving, and just as an argument's sake, it typically goes 100 feet or so, and I'm going to be very flexible with that number. So if there's any other concerns from the council's perspective, Councilor Getchia, correct, a lot of these streets need to be completely redone. But I think when everyone has an opportunity to look at the sidewalk assessment that is now up, the roadway assessment, I want to be clear, will be up by February 1st. It's an older version. We're going to be putting it back out. But it really still tells the story percentagely of what the issues and the challenges are, not only on our sidewalks as well as on our roads. But that localized paving, I think that's something that we will be asking the council to agree to put more money into, if you would, for the FY25 budget. Council, that's exactly where we're going to go. As most of you know, we're in the range of the $3 million mark, and now we're up in the 10s, 11s, and 12s, which is something that this council has really pushed, and the administration is going to continue to push with you to make sure that the next, I'm going to say 3 years, given the costs of what's been happening. But our challenges are pretty deep. Some of the sidewalk assessments we were just talking about today, if we were to look at all of the sidewalks to be completed, we're probably looking at approximately $65 million. And that's $65 million of today's money. We're going to come to the council, hopefully, with a plan to attack this. We have the map, if you have an opportunity to look at it online, which shows the walkable areas. And as I'm looking at our traffic engineer, the walkable areas is something we should really concentrate on first and foremost, which side streets may take a little bit of a backseat at this time, given the amount of money that is needed to attack this issue. So I thank the council, and the council has made this a priority. We're going to continue down this road, but localized paving, it would be my hope in FY25 that we will continue to increase monies for horizontal construction. Thank you, Councilor.
Great. Councilor Robertson?
Thank you. Again, when you're talking repairs and patchwork, I'm glad the conversations are happening the way they are. I'm glad to see my colleagues and the administration sound pretty committed to improving, the walking and the road works and the conditions, long-term, short-term, near future. A couple questions. One of the things that I think we have to be mindful of, and I'm not sure what plan the city has moving forward, but a big problem that we face is trees, as we all know. I mean, they're desperately needed to break up, the different effects. And I've seen in other communities how they do it, where it doesn't impede and lift up walkways. So I think that's one piece that we have to look at when we start ripping out and repairing and putting new sidewalks. Also, I've been approached by a couple constituents asking, near schools, is there a process that I could refer them to? Because there's some areas near schools, younger children walk frequently, and there's not sidewalks. So what is the process to put in at least like a request to have someone come out and look? So over in my district, for example, I know it is going to be a starting point with CSO work. So, I mean, would that be the time to start looking at some of these things? So when we're doing CSO work, roads are getting ripped up, in some instances sidewalks are non-existent, wouldn't that be the time to really install if we were putting it back together after the CSO work is completed in that area, if it fits the schedule?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through the council. Council, we will be talking an awful lot, especially in the Centerville area, given the CSO. Mr. Fox is here. And I think that it's going to be a real challenge. I'm going to put it that way, and that's probably putting it very lightly. But if you have the opportunity to look at the sidewalk assessment, I think our team did a great job in showing the high walkable areas in somewhat of a colored version of where the walkable areas are. And in just having a meeting today with Ms. Altman, who is here, as well as Ms. Chan from the engineer's office, I think that I think we're going to be asking the council to concentrate on those heavily walkable areas, and that being in and around the school areas and, of course, the downtown area. But, boy, Centerville, Christian Hill, Humphrey Street coming down, I think you've seen where the CSO is going to happen. It's going to be a real challenge in that area when we start ripping up all the way from, let's see, down by Top Donut, if you would. Mr. Fox, is that correct? Coming up the hill. The size of that pipe is probably big enough to drive a vehicle through. And that's going to, well, maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but not by much. So that's going to be a lot of issues there that we'll be able to, at the end of the day, make the streets better, but we're going to go through a little bit of turmoil, if you would. But I would love to maybe talk about that with Ms. Altman to find out in the areas that you're discussing, where can we put some sidewalks right now, and does it make sense to Mr. Fox's plan when it comes to the CSO issues? So if we could take that offline, we could have this discussion and find out what might make sense, if that's okay with you, Councilor.
That would be great. I'd love to have that conversation and at least point out a couple key locations that if there's anything we can do once we're putting the pieces back together, once we get to that phase, it's thought out and incorporated, as well as I think some key places that we've all discussed over the past 2+ years that are traffic problems. That might be the time to look at doing any bump outs or any of that kind of physical structure barrier stuff that we were talking about when we're putting the pieces back together. Thank you.
Councilor Getchia?
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. Through you to the manager, since we just had a conversation about sidewalks, I didn't think we were going to bring that into this, but the maps online, I thank you for that. Can we put that in like an Excel spreadsheet so that you could sort it by your street and get the ratings? A lot of them, when you go to other communities, that's how it's put. You can just look up your street, look across, see the rating, because when you expand upon that map on anything, it's hard to read. It gets distorted, and you can't really tell where is what and what is what. So did it come in like a format that can be sorted, or you can look across? Most times they do, but I didn't see it online that way. I'm sorry.
Mr. Manager?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. Council, I apologize. Did you say streets or did you say sidewalks?
Sidewalks.
Sidewalks, okay.
Yeah.
Streets, we do have.
Yeah.
Sidewalks, I can check on that.
Yeah.
The map does work, but as far as the rating goes, I'll check with the engineer to find out exactly how that rating looks, and we could easily attach that. I'm sure it exists. I just have not seen that.
Yeah, just by street and then
Correct.
ranking across. Because I know the streets do it that way, and I didn't see it for...
Similar to, exactly,
Yeah.
similar to how the streets do it. I'm making an assumption that when we had the sidewalk assessment completed, that it has to have the equivalent of the RSR.
Yeah,
So-
basically an Excel sheet where you can
Yep.
just... Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
I will get back to you and put that up. We can put that up as soon as we have it.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure we do.
Any other comments? Council Leahy?
Just quickly, through you to the manager. So with that motion, I don't really care one way or the other which way it gets handled. The point being that some of these patches just need to be refixed if they're a problem, And the other thing is when we maybe hopefully during the next budget session when we help reorganize DPW, the councilors shouldn't be pointing these out. I'm hoping that the goal would be that a street department would be filling these, A few years back, we had the request that there were 3 or 4, maybe 3 sinkholes on Boylston Street that needed to be redone, And so the hope is we don't need to bring that up. That should be done. When they sink down half a foot, they need to be replaced. So that's the only point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next section, 5.1, motion responses. A, Smith Cannabis. Any comments? Council Leahy?
Thank you. Appreciate the report. I just want to know, it's kind of funny. We need to get permission from MassDOT to redo that. I don't know if Miss... Okay.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council. We are still waiting we're waiting on MassDOT in regards to Smith dispensaries. Strike that. We're not waiting. Smith dispensaries are waiting for MassDOT to get back to them. I will put in a phone call. Unfortunately, my typical contact over at MassDOT right now has been out due to a personal issue. So we can try to ratchet this up and see if we can get MassDOT to get back to Smith dispensaries. Sorry.
All right, and they're involved because of
Because
Roger
it's a
Street?
state highway. That's correct, sir.
Okay, and again, I just want to emphasize, I just want to make sure that right-hand turn is over-exaggerated because, again, like every day, there's cars taking a left there, almost causing accidents. Thank you.
Motion response B, North Common and Clemente Park. Any comments? Council Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the report. I appreciate it, particularly with the link down the bottom, so we can kind of check the progress of these updated projects. However, on the third paragraph, I was a bit surprised, simply because the report say that DPD were trying to put all the projects together, so this way you have enough staff to manage all these projects at the same time. And then it go on to say did not budget costs for additional construction administration costs. And that's kind of surprised. I thought every project you should have extra money for, if you need outside expertise, you have some money to hire it. But without that extra money in the budget, how do you plan to finance it? To finance it, because you go on to say that if the project will need an outside then service to assist with the project management, which will impact the project budget. That means you just take out the money, say for paving of 500,000. Now we need to hire an expert that costs 50,000. So you take it out so that the project that's short on the budget, right? Is that what you say, Ms. Rowe?
Madam Assistant City Manager?
So for projects, we do typically include a contingency, which this project does have. All of the ARPA projects have a contingency built into the budget, which is the our funds that we essentially will use, to cover unexpected things. For projects where we intend to manage them in-house, we don't usually also budget outside project administration costs. So for these projects, for example, we have hired designers, and a part of their design contract will include some construction administration work. So if things are coming up in the field, they'll be able to help troubleshoot some of those things. In addition to that, we also have the contingency, but what I intended to get across in the motion response is that those consultants and that project budget is still going to be managed by a DPD staff person. And if we are moving in a direction where we need to hire outside consultants to do that day-to-day management of the designers and the project budget, that's where the additional cost would be. And in that case, it would negatively impact the project budget. So our intended plan does include contingency, and I think does allow for us to have unexpected things come up in these projects and still not negatively impact actually the final product.
Thank you for the explanation. Thanks for the report as well. Thank you.
Councilor Getchia?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Assistant City Manager Byers-Rose. What size is this building? What size is the building that's being for the restroom on the North Common? Is it a 30 by 30? How big is this projected building that we're trying to design out there? Because right now, I'm just in amazement. We're building one at Greater Lowell Fieldhouse. We're doing it all in-house. We had an architect come in, took him, I don't know, maybe a week, and did the architect work. We got the stamp from Tingsboro. Here we are, boom. We're building it. I don't understand how we can't pull this one piece out of a project. We hired, I believe, a construction manager part-time for the city. I thought we did that to manage some of these projects and manage other projects. That's why we hired them and we put them together, is why can't we pull this one piece out, do this in-house? We have lands and buildings, we have the building department, we have all of these resources in here that probably would love to do this stuff and take pride in doing it. And somehow we say, we got all these projects together in one field and we can't do this unless we have a full design of the whole place laid out. And I just think it's not a big expense to pull it out and say, okay, this area, we want this done. Can you hire an architect just to put up what they need? What is the need? ADA compliant bathrooms, a concession piece, and go from there. I'm just having a hard time figuring this is going to take till 2025 to get restrooms built at a ballpark. And I understand what you're saying. You got thrown this massive project, but I think that this piece could probably be pulled out and given to another department and say, hey, you know what? Here you are. And I think you may be happy with losing just this piece off of your plate, and someone else may take this over, because we do have a construction manager that we hired for this reason, and other pieces that probably could be useful for us and meet the needs of Councilor Yem and, the acre at the same time.
Off the top of my head, I have no idea what the size of the building is. There is an existing public restroom building there. So the plan for North Common is just roughly $1 million in total, but that includes the rehab, I guess, of that existing restroom building to upgrade the bathrooms to become ADA accessible and to add a portion that can be used as concession. Other upgrades at the park also include things like the field, the playground, poured in place rubber, improvement at the amphitheater, landscaping, public art, and new site furnishings. So there's 10 different projects within the North Common project itself. But off the top of my head, I don't know how big it is, but the intention, the request of the group was look, that building's already there. Instead of trying to build something new, can we just make that thing work? It's my understanding, based on feedback that we've gotten from Public Works, is that the building is just not serviceable. There are no facilities that are functioning in it right now. And so the assumption was that it would essentially be the shell that would be saved and everything else needs to be replaced and updated.
When Greater Lowell went out for their field house and they went out to bid for that field house alone, it was $1.1 million just for the field house. And you got all the add-ons and you're under $1 million. So I'm taking it's not that big of a area to be done. And I think that if you'd be surprised how quickly you can line up contractors to do these things and get this stuff right off your plate really fast and probably save money rather than having it be part of the overall project where they're getting large percentages of the money take to design and everything else, where an in-house or someone who's small company can definitely architect this really quick for you, and your contractors can put this together pretty fast. I don't think this is out of the realm is what people are trying to say and should take till 2025, but when you include it in another package, that's where it takes the driver is on time. So I think that if we go back to the board, the drawing board, and the manager works with us, I think that this can be done pretty reasonably quick. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. I want to say in the past, Pylon Park was done in-house by Lands and Buildings. The construction of that cinder block bathroom / concession stand facility, and it's cinder block. That's what you see in pretty much all of our green spaces now, except for the historic ones like at Shed. North Common, I mean, that was never really made to be a public restroom as much as it was kind of like a God shack. We used to station somebody over there in the summertime, and we provided a restroom facility over there and storage for like a lawnmower, weed whacker. So we're talking, I mean, to try to save something twice the size of a phone booth that's made out of brick doesn't really make sense, where if we leveled that thing, and maybe it's a great project to have the guys in-house if the commissioner and the administration has time available, but have them construct, like they have the experience. They've done it at a few parks in the city already. And I think, it's a matter of prioritizing. We heard loud and clear from the residents that they're prioritizing a concession stand and a restroom. As far as like public art and ornamentals and all that, I mean, I'm sure that's probably the last phase to go in, and there's other ways and other resources available, but I think the priority from what we heard, at least when they came and spoke, was restroom, concession stand, because the concession stand is going to be the lifeblood of the league. That's how they generate and keep the league going. So I think this is something that we might just have to shift again priorities on this project and come back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Councilor Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may also add on, like Councillor Kachir mentioned, the resident and the ball player asked to have that bathroom and concession stand, and they mentioned the same as Councillor Kachir mentioned, that why takes so long? You have an existing building already, the 2 bathroom. How long does it take to fix a bathroom to make it usable? Take it out of the big pictures and get it done so that the kids, the ball player can use, especially the spring, summer game is coming up soon. So if the manager wouldn't mind through you to kind of take a look at and see if we could, prioritize that and just have the bathroom moving, even though concession stand may take longer, but at least just to have the bathroom running, because right now it has both male and female bathroom already. Thank you.
Great. Motion response, C, Lowell Housing Authority invite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report. I'm looking forward to a presentation from the LHA directors. I think it's on 30th, something like that. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Motion response D, report on censure process. I think Council Justice said, I think take D and E together, fill vacant council position. Are there any comments on these two? I've been asked to refer these to subcommittee, but if any comments?
I was just going to refer to the Rules Subcommittee on the censure one.
Second that.
Great. Makes sense. Great. Awesome. All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. 5.2, information reports. Update on Merrimack River from Lowell Fire Department and wastewater treatment. Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. We have our chief here, as well as Mr. Fox, to go through a presentation, just to let everybody know what has been happening. Thank you very much to all of the city councilors that have been calling with concerns of flooding. But I believe that we have the two experts, I would say, in this area to go through this. So, Chief, Mr. Fox, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council. Living in Lowell for any period of time, you know that there is the potential for flooding within the city. We're hallmarking the Merrimack River here, but the fact is that our flooding is generally associated with a whole series of, correct, give me one moment, this is not cooperating with me here. All right. We have a very significant potential for flooding within the city, starting, of course, first with the Merrimack River, but as you know, we're laced with waterways throughout our entire area. We're also talking about the Concord River. We're talking about the Lowell Canal System, which includes 8 different canals, miles of canals. And we're also talking about a lot of other tributaries, primary among them being some of our brooks, Black Brook, River Meadow Brook, the Clay Pit Brook area, Beaver Brook, and all of these contribute to the potential for flooding within the area. On this slide, I wanted to point out 3 most significant historical flooding events. In 2006, of course, we had the flood, the Mother's Day flood that occurred, and that got us up to just short of 59 feet. The flood of 1936, that one there is our highest at 68.4, and the flood of 1852, that brought us to almost 61 feet. To put this in perspective, 58 is considered major flood stage. So obviously 36 was very significant. You weren't crossing any bridges, and you had major flooding in a lot of the neighborhoods during that time. So just a very quick brief on the Lowell hydroelectric project, okay? The Lowell hydroelectric project basically encompasses all of the Concord and the Merrimack and all of the infrastructure associated with the canals inside the Lowell area. There are several major pieces that are associated with it. The first, obviously, would be the Pawtucket Dam and the reservoir that is created behind it to feed and create the pressure necessary to introduce the water into the canal system. There is also the Lowell Canal System in and of itself. The canal system consists of 8 separate canals, all interconnected, with 9 different gates and dam structures within that. There is the Great Guard Lock, which is more commonly referred to as the Francis Gatehouse and its associated buildings, which are used to control flow into the canals themselves. This is a system that is managed with the guidance of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and it is managed by Boot Hydro LLC. They keep track of all of these devices. They monitor them, and they are responsible for the infrastructure. What you see in front of you here is a quick update on river level monitoring. One of the tools that we use is the USGS Advanced Hydrological Prediction Service. This allows us to go to this website, take a quick look at what's on the hydrograph. It gives us the current levels of the river in particular. And you can go across the entire country and evaluate any river that is monitored. Here we do it for the Concord and also for the Merrimack River. It gives us a predicted river stage out to 48 hours beyond the current date, and gives us all of the locations of the monitoring devices. The locations for the Concord River is the Rogers Street, just beyond the bridge before you get to River Meadow Brook. And for the Merrimack River, you're talking about just about at the Hunts Falls Bridge. So monitoring for the Merrimack is below the Pawtucket Dam. This is usually what cues us into getting involved in the visual observations. Key areas that have flooded before and in the past, areas above or upstream of the Pawtucket Falls, areas in the Clay Pit Brook area that would normally be subject to flooding, the Concord River, especially outer Barica Street, where we can expect to see flooding first as it approaches that level, and of course in the vicinity of Beaver Brook on either side of the stopgap barrier. One of the key pieces that receives the majority of the views in relation to the structure is the Pawtucket Dam. It is operated by Boot Hydro LLC and of course managed through FERC. It has its own emergency action plan, and that plan is in place and maintained by Boot Hydro. We liaison with them, in fact, did so last week to ensure that we have the most up-to-date action plan and have a general understanding of who to contact if we needed to make contact with them in relation to it. The Fire Department Emergency Management Team has a copy of this plan, evaluates it, and meets usually yearly to see where we fit into the emergency action plan, which not only includes the federal agencies, local, it also includes such agencies as the National Park Service and state Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. The key figure of the dam, which is spread across just about 1,100 feet, is the crest gate, which is the device that has been put into place for the flashboards. This is a bladder system device with 5 actuating sections that is usually in the upper raised position, creates the head pressure that's necessary to provide water into the canal system. When the flow rate reaches a specific point, in this case 33,700 cubic feet per second, the crest gate is on an automatic mode and automatically begins to lower, going left to right through the 5 sections. The intent is to release that head pressure and get more water over the falls so it does not build up behind the dam. It's important to note that that automatic system is based on a series of sensors. It is not based on the level of the river at all. It is based entirely on water flow. 33,700 cubic feet per second doesn't really have a point of reference for you, I understand that. But let's go back to that flood of 1936. That was when we had our highest flow rate, and that was 173,000 cubic feet per second. So we're talking about nearly 6 times the flow rate at that particular point. It's important to remember, too, that this automated system has a built-in redundancy system, so if one part of it fails, the other part of it can pick up the slack and slowly bring down all of the bladders. And ultimately, in the event of an anticipated high flow, the option is always there for Boot Hydro LLC to send individuals out to take manual control of the bladders and drop them to the fullest extent so the maximum amount of water can flow over the dam. That was done 2 Sundays ago when we had our high levels as we approached the action stage. Locally, what does this mean? It means that we are tapping into our comprehensive emergency management plan, which at this stage is currently under review. We're looking at our local plans and taking into consideration what types of things we would have to be doing in this particular event, what support functionality, what public safety elements will need to be upgraded. The Boot Hydro meetings, liaisoning with other agencies like the National Park Service to get a handle on the emergency action plans in place and to also provide us a little bit of guidance as far as moving forward with our own plans. Site visits that allow us to check all of the different water reserve areas, those associated with the smaller brooks, and also areas where water would have a tendency to pool. I'm going to give you an example. As the Beaver Brook dumps into the bend at the Merrimack River, we have a tendency to see a large reservoir of water building up that will give us some issues there. We had that issue in 2006 and 2007. So before I end, I wanted to just give you a quick sequence of events, what you'd be looking at as far as where we are in the Emergency Management Office. Initially, we would be getting notifications generally 5 to 7 days in advance of a water-related event, whether that ends up being something that occurs over a concentrated time frame, several hours, or if it's going to be a long event over a 2 to 3 day period where you have a saturating type rain. National Weather Service will be giving us bulletins. We'll be looking at their box operation reports and getting briefings from them. MEMA would be, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, would be presenting us with their situation report and beginning to stand up the key elements of the state system. And then at that point, the Office of Emergency Management and wastewater would be going into the USGS service. We'd be looking at their predictions for flow and crest and identifying the areas of concern specific to neighborhoods and low-lying areas in close proximity to the flooded bodies. This will lead us to other key parts. Are we going to be activating an emergency operations center? Will there be shelter activations? Will task forces need to be formed for neighborhood evacuations? Currently, we are following a template that was developed during the 2006-2007 floods. But we also have to take into account that at the 500-year flood, we could be looking at another 1936. So we're trying to enhance the plan to take into account larger evacuation areas. I want to thank the Emergency Management Coordinator, Heather Tesh, who's new and on board and has helped us prepare this presentation, and also the wastewater manager, Aaron Fox, who's been instrumental in helping us get a handle on this. And the chief, myself, and the director would be more than willing to answer any questions that the council has.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Getchia?
I just want to thank wastewater, Aaron Fox, the director over there, because a couple weeks back when it was raining very heavy and we saw the river go up, I had called over to him and asked all of these detailed questions to him that you're highlighting today, and then I asked the manager, is there a way that we can get a presentation so that we could understand what's going on? And when we looked at the elevations of the water, there's a manual way of doing it, but they also have a way of, it's automated. And if Mr. Fox had just come up and tell us the levels and just show, you know, in advance, if we know something's coming and we see that there's areas downstream that could be filled in, are they willing to lower that manually without getting to the elevations that they wanted so that we could just get that water to flow out? And I don't recall what that response was this time, but I thought you said they would if they had that much rain that they knew was coming.
Thank you. Fox?
Thank you. Yes, so they operate it automatically according to their plan approved by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. So will operate automatically to that plan, and as it approaches flood stage, they will put that in manual and bring down the crest gate. So,
Now, if the city requested at some point, would they lower that if we knew the storm was coming? And would they lower that for us? Because if one end is holding back and you have all of this area that we could actually fill in to try to get it out of there earlier in advance, is there a way that we can get into conversations with them and say, look, you know what, here's the projection, you're holding back right now, and could it be too late if it's a flash flood event that happens so fast that, and it's happened in the past, that you can't manually get to it and get that down? Because I know that you also said that they're not producing energy right now, right?
that's correct. I don't think they've produced energy for about a year, but they continue to operate according to the plan that's been approved. I think they have to according to the plan. That'd be something they could articulate more on. But
Could we, through this body and maybe through the mayor or the manager, just get back into conversation with them and say, if we know there's a known coming and there's more area that we can dump into prior to this happening, can we have an agreement that we can somehow lower that manually without hitting those
So we do have emergency contact numbers. Whenever we reach action stage, we're in touch with them directly in relation to what the levels are. A lot of times when we're in contact with them, they're already watching it. I know last weekend when there was a discussion, this is what we're doing, before we were even at the point where we were looking at action stage, they're like, we're looking at getting into action stage up to 53 feet, and we're just going to manually drop all the bladders. And that's ended up happening overnight on Saturday into Sunday.
So who initiates those contacts? Is it the emergency management team, or is it you yourself as the fire chief? So that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm just trying to filter in for everybody to understand the same thing, is at the same time we're all learning how this process works. So say we know there's going to be a flood or heavy rains, because we watched in some of those streams, you could see it rise right up because they're holding back, but there's plenty of space downstream that they can let out water so those streams can actually go down, but they're flooding into people's backyards at this point because it hasn't hit that number. So that number, or their automatic piece, certainly could be manually lowered so that those streams stay lower in people's backyards, and we can send it downstream where there's plenty of room for the water to go, but we're not doing it because we have an elevation that it has to hit for it to do, or we wait till there's a manual piece. But in the backyards of some of these houses, because of the streams, because of the level they're holding it at, and I still would question that level that they're actually it's gonna automatically go down, because at that level, it still floods people's backyards. And that's where the question is, how do we come up with that level? Because now it's seeking into people's backyards, because these streams are being overwhelmed when there's plenty of room downstream to let the water go down and get out of that area. That's where the balance comes in, and I don't know that, I think it's something that we should probably try to talk to, that's all, Mayor.
Yeah, Chief, if I could, we dealt with this for many years. Chief Winwood would reach out on a yearly basis about trying to get that level 53 lower. It's a plan that's put in place by the company, by the feds, and by FEMA, that's approved and goes through the process. And we still try to, I don't know the word you want to use, circumvent it, to try to get it to go lower. But unfortunately, a lot of times the city's left out of it. We get recommendations from our fire chief and then from our emergency coordinator that goes into it. But unfortunately, that's the case. That does happen. There's no harm in reaching out again at all to find out. But that all the times, we had FEMA come to Pawtuckaville and to address the issues, years ago. That's the way that they divvy it up. But Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Councils, we do have a meeting coming up in the middle of February, which I'll make sure that everybody's at. And this is to discuss a whole host of issues with the company in regards to canals and whatnot that's been going on. So this is just an ongoing discussion point. But the mayor is correct. Between FEMA and FERC, we have a really difficult time dealing with those folks, because the hydro plant is certified federally, but that's not going to hurt. And ensure that Mr. Fox, Chief, that you're at this meeting. Ms. Rose, if you can make sure that happens. This will be happening, like I said, probably, I think it's in the middle of February, but we'll make sure that we make that ask.
And a major key, Counselor, was the 48 hours. Advance was a big thing at the time. Obviously, if we could lower it to 47, 48, it'd be even better. But again, it's all federally,
This last storm, you and I were in contact going back and forth, and you saw as you drove across the Pawtucket Bridge, you're looking on the left where it's being held back and there's nothing on the right. So I don't know where the harm would be to try to manually lower it and let some of that water out so it doesn't flood behind the Brunswick and all that. It was coming over at that point.
I was stunned that they weren't making any money. They were to arrest, so, yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? I don't think this is much to ask, and I think we should continue that conversation and try to, update us on it, because if there's another avenue that we need to take, whether it's contact a congresswoman or someone like that, I just think that there's no reason to hold it back. If you're not creating energy and there's plenty of room downstream, what's the reason for holding it back?
Surely can't hurt to ask.
Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Yam and Counselor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question for the chief. Do we have an emergency plan to evacuate residents along the river? I remember 2006, the flood. I know I have an apartment that I put for sale on the first floor of Camelot. The resident was there. So fortunately, the fire department, were able to kind of use the boat to kind of ferry them out to Mammoth Road, I believe.
So there is a template for a plan for evacuation, which is generally placed over the specific neighborhood that you happen to be involved in. What we did in 2006 was we set up task forces. Those consisted of police, EMS, fire with a rescue boat. We've actually used flat bottom boats from both water and wastewater to assist us in evacuating neighborhoods during that time frame. And those task forces went into the specific neighborhoods, Camelot Court being one of them, to extricate people from those locations, many of whom had to then move on to the shelters, the 2 shelters that we stood up during that time frame.
Do we alert them ahead of time when notice that the water level is high coming in? Do they have a warning, the residents?
So we can utilize Code Red to put out a message. And we are in the process of finishing up the certification for the WIA system, which will allow us also to make a notification in regards to flooding. Now, we're going to do it as our own entity at some point, but even though that's not completed, we can always apply directly to MEMA and have a wireless emergency alert sent out. Like if I had a flood in 15 minutes, we can have a wireless alert sent out, verified by the state, and sent out for this affected area. So
I'm glad you pick up on the WE system, because that's been my motion and it has not been responded back. The last time I mentioned to you that you said the city apply for, and then I will refile it for an update so that we would have this system that will be automatically for everyone who has a wireless system, the phone, tablets, and everything. And my cousin from California who visit Lowell will also receive on their cell phone as well, because our system right now is limited to only if you download the program onto your phone. But the WE system will be automatically kick in once it's declared emergency. Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. Real quick, I know it's not the city that controls it, but with all of this rainfall in the past, say, year or so, is there a reason, do you know, why they're not producing energy over there? Are they their own problems? Or because, I mean, you would think they must have had a solid flow rate straight through the past year. I mean, the amount of rainfall we've had.
Right. So I had talked to the people who are operating the hydro plant, and they have downed equipment that is preventing them, that they're currently under repair. That's preventing their generation of electricity.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do know what you're referring to, how difficult it is to get a permission to lower the bladder dam ourselves to do that. they're very restrictive and they don't want to, cooperate really too well. Is Booth and NL the same place, same company, or is one different from the other? Because I thought like NL was a company from Rome. Weren't they from Rome?
Yeah, it's seen many iterations over the years. Boot to NL to Boot Hydro LLC with oversight and management from Central Rivers Power and, a period of oversight from Patriot Hydro. It's very convoluted, but it is all included under the Lowell Hydroelectric project.
Because I was wondering how you did get a number to contact them. It's not very easy to do that. And also, something that adds to this overview of flooding of beaver dams. Do we have any in the immediate area, that are hindering this water from traveling and just congregating in a spot?
Mr. Manager?
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Councilor, at this time, the beaver situation in any of those are under control. That doesn't mean that won't be changed tonight. But we have a pretty good feeling, a pretty good feel, I think, for when that happens. Some of the beaver foolers or the diverters that we have been working, but I know that we have a number of residents who have the assistant city manager's cell phone, my cell phone, that if they see any interaction, I just don't know if the chief and Mr. Fox would know that, but we try to stay, on top of this to make sure that we're pulling out the critters when necessary.
I know there was something in the works that said the law states you can't trap the beavers from 1 month, certain months, but I mean, I really don't, and I love animals, but I don't want to have my neighborhood flooded because these critters want to have a dam there.
You're absolutely right, Council. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. You're absolutely correct, but that and we do have some challenges with some culverts that need to be rebuilt.
Yes.
But DPW, I think, when this is going to unfortunately probably be a. I would like to think it's not going to be a yearly issue, a yearly problem, but it's something that, as a representative years ago, we were dealing with it more often than not.
Yes.
And it does have an issue to do with how we can trap beavers and to remove them from the area. But there are thoughts about culverts that need to be fixed in that area that I've talked to the mayor about and I've talked to some of the councilors about.
Yep.
So we're very well aware. Could that be exacerbating the problem in those low-lying areas? I think the answer would be yes. But currently, right now, I don't think that is the case. But as I tell you that,
Right.
this could change moment to moment,
Wow.
depending on how busy they get.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And great job at presenting this. Very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Take care. 5.2, second report, MSBA advocacy letter. Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through the council. Council, this is an excellent report, I think, put together by Ms. Moses. And as most of you can see, what is happening, we had a discussion with the MSBA to see that if the city of Lowell could possibly be in line or be one of the municipalities that could possibly help with this this conversion. The MSBA Green Schools program policy, which I believe is about page 9, I believe, in your packet. These are some of the proposed policies. We're in contact with the MSBA to see how the city of Lowell can participate at a greater extent. I think we have an excellent relationship with the Accelerated Repair Program organization as well as the portion of MSBA. This is something that is a pretty, like I said, once again, a great report that will take even more time to digest. But from the perspective of the administration, I feel as though we're at least positioned that the MSBA be looking towards a gateway city like Lowell to see how we can get off of the fossil fuel piece. So I leave you to take a look at it and feel free. We probably will be bringing Ms. Moses in relatively soon as well. The discussion that we had about every 6 months, bringing in some of the department heads, and I think that this is one of the pieces that the city has worked on, this council has worked on, and we look to be a willing participant to assist MSBA to get this completed.
Great. Councilor Getchia.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. Mr. Manager, when you read the report, it says that in January of 2024, the MSBA opened their ARP 2024 Statement of Interest period, and basically it outlines saying that they're no longer going to offer fossil fuel boiler replacements for aging systems. Do we have a process in place that we're going to be looking at that will say, okay, now we no longer are going to put in for these to be replaced this way? We're going to look at offering the heat pump systems in these schools, and because some of them will take more of a design than just a install, take out, put in, replacement type of thing. Do we have a plan going forward? Is that what we're in the process of doing?
Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. With the discussions that we've had with the MSBA, once again, being a willing participant, this is a great idea. I'm just kind of wondering on the pump conversion if it can indeed happen in every situation and what the fallback provision is going to be. But once again, in talking to Mr. Donovan, who I've known for some time, we're just trying to get it across that, of course, MSBA has been excellent to the city of Lowell. The ARP portion of MSBA has been excellent to the city of Lowell, and this new version will be something that, once again, we want to be a willing participant to try to get that done. Councilor, I am very interested to see if it cannot be done. What is our next step? Some of these boilers are quite expensive. So if we can indeed, and if it makes sense for it to happen, we should continue to obviously try to green our schools. So it's a work in progress at this time.
I want to thank you for the letters that you sent to the MSBA and also to the members of the delegation supporting this type of move towards the non-fossil fuels. So I thank you for the progress going forward. I think it's going to be a challenge to try to move there, but I see other communities that have much more wealth than us that ran that way. And as we stated last time, the only reason why Lowell is not in that position is because of wealth. And that's the only reason why they have what they have and we don't have what we don't have. And it just comes down to the wealth within their system. But thank you again.
Motion to adopt the place on file by Councilor Robertson, seconded by Councilor Scott. Mr. Manager. We've done 5.3, 5.4, 5.5. Oh, sorry.
Paul,
oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. 5.5, resignations from various boards and commissions. Motion to accept the place on file by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Those in favor say aye. Motion passes. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the council. Councils, we've had this discussion just recently. I've had the opportunity, and I was invited, and I do apologize for not having the time to put this on to the actual packet for this week, but it was just put together yesterday. I've been asked by the University of Massachusetts Lowell, Chancellor Chen, to accompany her Thursday, January 25th at 3 p.m. To go down to discuss with the Department of Transportation the Bridge Infrastructure Program and the Safe Streets Program. This is similar to what we've already been lucky enough in the hard work that's been done by DPW, DPD, as well as the Engineer's Office, where we received $21.7 million for the bridge programs. My intent is to go to Washington, D.C. on Thursday. It is out-of-state travel. It'd be a required vote by the city council. The intent is to leave at about 11 a.m. and return on the same day, 7 p.m. My anticipated expenses for this would be in and around $325 approximately. This would be a vote by the council in order for me to do that. And then once again, my apologies for not putting it on. It's just something that we've known for about a week and a half. And the finalized goals and objectives and schedule, quite frankly, were just completed just yesterday. So if it's okay with the council, I would ask a affirmative vote that I may travel to Washington, D.C. this Thursday
I make-
to the Department of Transportation.
So move.
So
A motion to suspend the rules to approve out-of-state travel by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Noon. Any comments?
I think Mayor Rourke should go with you.
Skip.
I think we all should go.
We'll do a roll call for that first, Councilor. Yeah. Yeah, sure, yeah. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes, but if the manager doesn't get the money, he has to pay the trip himself. Just kidding.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janice.
Mr. Mayor,
10 years.
Good luck.
motion to bundle 6.1 and 6.2.
By Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Robinson. Vote to the city manager. 6.1, approve exemption of limited clock, Master General Law 268A, Section 20, and vote to transfer $15,000 to DPD. Waive the full reading. We need a motion to adopt by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Noon. Roll call, please. Actually, we got to take two separate roll calls, Councilor Noon, because we have one that's 6 votes that are needed, and another one is 8. I believe, right? Do them both, okay.
Can I ask a question about 6.2?
How's it get you?
So 6.2 on the transfer, I see that this is the only use of this account so far. Why haven't we used this for training in other years? And this is for overtime. How does it relate to training when you look at 140A, building and fire fines? Because it says it's used strictly for training and we're using it for overtime.
CFO?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So this is a special revenue account created specifically by statute under 148A, which is the statute that governs means of emergency egress. So when commercial or residential buildings are fined, either by the fire department or the inspectional services department, the revenue from those fines goes into a special revenue fund that can be used under the statute for education. It can be used for salaries and wages for overtime, extra inspections, or for training. And so this is the genesis of this account was the Station nightclub fire many years ago. Massachusetts, like other communities, created these funds that communities could tap into to do additional inspections. And so that is the source of the funds, and the purpose is in the inspectional services department to do proactive inspection, I believe.
I just didn't see the overtime piece in your memo, that's all. I just saw the training and education piece. But if there's a way of using this to do more training for our building employees in inspectional, I think that that's always a good professional development piece to use out of here, and we could actually expand upon maybe having people ready for the next stage to become actually a building commissioner or something. So it's a great account to use that for, and thank you again.
You have a first and a second already?
Yep, we do.
Roll call, please.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janice. 10 years.
Orders to the city manager, 7.1, order 60-day trial with a full reading. Second reading by title. Temporary experimental regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of up to 60 days. Motion to adopt by Council Scott, second by Council Yem. Roll call.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janice. 10 years.
Ordinance to the city manager, 8.1, amend Chapter 9 by creating diversity, equity, inclusion, and a belonging committee. On the first reading, we need a motion to refer to a public hearing on February 6th, 2024 by Councilor Getchia, seconded by Councilor Chow. Roll call.
No roll call, Mr.
Roll call, all right, great. 8.2, ordinance quarterly traffic, January 2024. First reading to refer to a public hearing on February 6th, 2024. Motion by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Scott. Reports, subcommittee, if any? I don't think so. Everybody has their subcommittees assigned. I'm sure we'll start getting those pretty soon. Petitions, 10.1, claim property damage.
We have one speaker here on the petitioner. Robin Moulton.
Hi. It was in November 13th. I came into Lowell. It was the Boys and Girls Club, the park adjacent to that. And I was taking a walk, and there was people tearing down trees with backhoes, and I screamed, and I wasn't sure what was going on. The police came. Explained to me that they were hired to prune the trees, so it was all legal and everything's good, and I'm like, okay. But the police officer said I was high or on something because of my pinpoint eyes, and took my key away from my car. I walked to the police station to get the key back, and apparently the officer that took it wasn't there, he was the one that had to give it back to me. And then I went to the mayor's office, and I was waiting there to see how I could resolve this. And then the police came there, and apparently I was arrested for trespassing, for whatever. And I was given a ride for 20 minutes in a vehicle, even though the police station is right there. I spent the night in jail. I was going to see the judge on a bogus charge of what? I don't know. I was not on anything. There was no drugs. There was no nothing. I don't know why my key was taken from me by the police officer. And while I was going to see the judge, I was from behind. I was handcuffed, and a police officer threw me to the ground and cracked my skull. I have 11 staples in my head. And then the police decided to lock me up for 11 more days. So 12 days of my life were not mine. And the car was towed. It was $400. My clothes were ruined from the blood. I just have to make this known, because this can't be, I mean, what's going on? That this could happen to me.
Mr. Muldoon, so what we're going to do is, thank you for coming here. We're going to have a motion to refer this to the law department. Okay?
Excuse me?
There's going to be a motion made to refer this to the law department by Councilor Getchia and seconded by Councilor Dakota.
I still can't hear you. Motion to what?
They're going to refer this to the law department to look into your situation.
Okay.
Okay? Right.
Okay.
I'm with you. Yeah, so we're going to refer it to the law department. We have your petition on file.
12 days.
Okay. And we have your comments on record as well.
Section 12.
I understand. Thank you, sir. So we have a motion by Councilor Getchia, second by Councilor Dakota to refer to the law department. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I just wanted the city council to know that that's how police dealt with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Up to announcements. Any announcements? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a very special day. At least it'll be even more special on Thursday, January 25th, because we want to, as a whole, this council, say happy birthday to the chairman of the birthday subcommittee. He wouldn't tell anyone when his birthday was, but it's amazing how he knew everybody else's, but he didn't want us to know his. But between Kim Scott and myself, we found out. And so it's the 25th, it's on Thursday, but we want to acknowledge it right now and say happy birthday to our colleague.
Thank you so much,
Happy birthday,
Councillor.
Councilor. Happy birthday. Councilor,
But you don't have one card, you have two.
thank you, Councilor Mercia. Councilor Getchia.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I just wanted to say thank you to the DPW workers and the water department. We've had multiple water main breaks over the last week, and they've been out in full force making those repairs, and also the DPW, because just because it's not snowing doesn't mean they're not out salting and icing the streets and de-icing the streets, so that I just want to make sure that we recognize their hard work in trying to get the water back. So, Mr. Manager, if you could just send a thank you from the council to those employees, because those are long hours and cold nights. So thank you from us to them.
Well said. Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. It's an excellent suggestion, Councilor. But Council, I hope that everyone did receive the fact that we did hire an HR director, Mr. Neil Osborne, and we're going to try to have him here tonight, but we're going to have him next Tuesday, but he's going to start on Monday. So I just wanted to let everybody know that Mr. Osborne will be starting on Monday, and be an opportunity to meet him on Tuesday.
Councilor Mercia.
And he will come here before the council so we could all meet him and have the public know who he is?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, if I may, please, councilors, send your bios to Erastus, Councilor Dakota. You're the only one that doesn't have from last year, but if anybody wants to update their bios, send them to Erastus, it'll be posted on the website. But if you're comfortable with what you have up there now, that's cool too, but he's awaiting bios, so. Yes, Councilor Yam.
Just a quick question to follow up on the bio. What happened to the photos that was taken at the inauguration?
Great question for Erastus.
Headshot.
Sure, he'll answer that for you. Awesome. All right. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Chow, second by Councilor Dakota. Good night.